Here exists a form of love that whispers in the quiet spaces, a concealed current that meanders beneath the clamor of everyday existence. It's not voiced in grand pronouncements or solemn vows, but rather in delicate gestures, tranquil presences, and unspoken constellations of attentiveness. Carl Jung, in his profound delving into the human psyche, understood that the soul doesn't merely communicate through articulated language. It manifests itself through unconscious patterns, spontaneous actions, and energies that circumvent the ego's watchful control. When someone loves with true authenticity, their actions possess an unseen resonance, an emotional vibration that emanates from the depths of the unconscious and reaches you, not as a mere explanation, but as a deeply felt sensation. These signals are seldom performed with conscious intention. Indeed, the person exhibiting them is often unaware of their actions. This very unawareness is what imbues them with such purity. While the persona may craft eloquent words and the ego might fabricate displays of affection, the unconscious is incapable of deception. It subtly slips through in fleeting glances, in the subtle nuances of tone, in the inherent instinct to shield and protect, in the sudden, pregnant silence that feels safe and comforting rather than empty and void. These become the genuine symbols of authentic connection, not because of their dramatic flair, but precisely because they are undeniably real. Jung believed that the soul communicates through archetypal signals, and love, in its most unadulterated form, is an archetype of union itself. It courses through us without seeking permission, and when it does, it leaves indelible traces that are not shouted from the rooftops but deeply felt within the soul. Today, we're going to embark on an exploration of 6 of those secret signs, those small yet profoundly meaningful moments where someone's love reveals itself without the need for a single uttered word. What you are about to witness may challenge the very foundations of how you've always perceived love. But once you recognize these subtle yet powerful signals, you will begin to perceive a deeper, more profound truth: that love, when it is genuine and true, does not need to announce its presence. It already speaks volumes through the language of the soul. The unconscious synchronization. There are those rare and precious moments in life when two souls converge beneath the surface of conscious awareness, and something ancient and primal stirs within. What unfolds between them transcends mere affection or simple compatibility. It is a silent harmony, a resonance that defies the cold logic of reason. Carl Jung termed this phenomenon emotional synchronicity, a spontaneous resonance that reveals itself not through the medium of spoken words, but through mirroring movements, shared silences that speak volumes, and an instinctive attunement to each other's inner states. When we observe two individuals who are deeply and profoundly connected, we witness a kind of invisible choreography, a dance of souls. Their breathing gently and naturally falls into a shared rhythm. Their facial expressions subtly mirror one another in unspoken empathy and understanding. Their gestures align with an almost uncanny precision, as if choreographed by some deeper intelligence, some unseen force. Contemporary science might label this neural mirroring, but Jung would argue that this is the soul recognizing its reflection in another. From a Jungian perspective, this profound synchronization is not something that is learned or rehearsed. It is a profound reflection of something archetypal, a convergence deep within the collective unconscious. When two psyches touch in this ethereal realm, something beyond the ego's grasp takes place. The animus and anima, the inner masculine and feminine principles residing within each individual, begin to recognize, respond to, and ultimately harmonize with one another. This harmonious alignment does not depend on superficial factors such as gender or conscious desire. It is, at its core, a soul recognizing another soul. Jung himself wrote that when two personalities meet and interact, it is akin to the contact of two chemical substances. If a reaction occurs, both are irrevocably transformed. Emotional synchronicity embodies this alchemical reaction, this transformative process. Its most profound expression is often revealed in moments of hardship, in times of adversity. In the midst of a crisis, the person who truly loves you will not require a single word to understand the depths of what you are feeling. They will intuitively sense your emotional weather, your inner climate, before a single syllable is even uttered. They will instinctively intuit your need for stillness, for simple presence, for unwavering care, and they will respond with an almost uncanny, instinctive precision. A patient named Maria once shared, "I was drowning in a sea of stress, but I hadn't confided in anyone. When my partner walked through the door, he simply said, 'Let's go for a quiet walk.' It was precisely what I needed in that moment, as if he had somehow heard what I was unable to articulate. This is not mere coincidence or happenstance. It is the undeniable manifestation of unconscious resonance, a deep connection. True love reveals itself in the subtle and understated ways that someone anticipates and meets your unspoken needs without being explicitly told, without seeking praise or recognition for their actions. And even more remarkably, this profound synchronization is not limited or bound by the constraints of physical space. Jung documented countless cases of lovers, close friends, and soul companions feeling each other's emotional states across vast distances, often through the medium of dreams, shared sensations, and potent, shared symbols. The unconscious, it seems, always finds a way to speak, to communicate. The very essence of this kind of love lies in its inherent spontaneity. It flows like a river, unhindered and free, requiring no justification, no planning, no calculated strategy. It is not a performance put on for an audience. It is a pure and unadulterated recognition of another soul. And when you experience it firsthand, something within you softens and opens, not because you are intellectually convinced, but because you are, at long last, truly seen and understood. This is the first and perhaps the deepest sign of true love. A wordless resonance, a connection where your soul feels mirrored, not in the deceptive illusion of idealization, but in the unwavering truth of authentic connection. The persistent positive projection, the mirror of your unlived self. The second profound sign of true love emerges through a subtle yet transformative psychological dynamic that Jung called persistent positive projection. The innate capacity of one soul to see and steadfastly hold the highest potential within another, even during those times when that person has completely forgotten it themselves. In classical Jungian theory, projections are often discussed within the context of shadow material, the disowned and unconscious aspects of the self that we unconsciously and often unknowingly assign to others, typically manifesting in the form of criticism or idealization. But Jung also observed a rarer, more luminous and radiant projection, one that occurs specifically in the presence of authentic and genuine love. It is the remarkable ability to see not just who someone currently is, but who they are capable of becoming, the person they are destined to be. It is the sacred gaze that pierces through the dense fog of fear, failure, and crippling self-doubt and perceives the archetype of wholeness, resting quietly and patiently within. Jung once penned in a letter, "Love is the capacity to see what is invisible in the other." This kind of profound vision is not rooted in mere fantasy or wishful thinking. It is not a case of blind infatuation. It is the soul's innate recognition of another soul's buried potential, the latent possibilities waiting to be awakened. And what makes this particular projection so truly sacred is its unwavering persistence. It does not simply vanish when you stumble and fall, nor does it falter or weaken when you reveal your brokenness, your vulnerabilities. It remains steadfast and unwavering, even in your darkest and most challenging season. This kind of love does not merely admire who you are in your opinion. It is the soul's innate recognition of another soul's buried potential, the latent possibilities waiting to be awakened. And what makes this particular projection so truly sacred is its unwavering persistence. It does not simply vanish when you stumble and fall, nor does it falter or weaken when you reveal your brokenness, your vulnerabilities. It remains steadfast and unwavering, even in your darkest and most challenging season. This kind of love does not merely admire who you are in your moments of strength. It reveres the very core of your being, even in moments of collapse. Joel, a 39-year-old university professor, once shared, "In the deepest throes of my depression, when I felt like a hollow shell, my partner would gently remind me of my compassion, my insight, my brilliance. He held those parts of me like sacred relics I had forgotten I possessed." This consistent, positive projection manifests in quiet, unwavering ways. The person who loves you will see your efforts, no matter how small. They will nurture your dreams, even those you only mention fleetingly. They will remind you of your truth, not with pressure, but with presence. Their affirmation is not a performance. It is rooted in deep knowing. Perhaps most powerfully, they see potential in you that has yet to surface. This is not a denial of your flaws or fragility. On the contrary, they hold both your shadow and your light in equal reverence. They do not shy away from your darkness. They simply refuse to let it define you. This is what separates persistent positive projection from mere idealization. It is not projecting perfection. It is the recognition of potential, deeply rooted in acceptance. In many spiritual traditions, this is described as seeing the divine spark in another. Rumi spoke to this when he said, "What you seek is seeking you." When someone consistently sees the sacred in you, even when you forget it yourself, it creates an alchemical force. You slowly begin to grow into that image. You rise toward it, not through pressure or pretense, but through the invitation to become more fully who you truly are. Gently ask yourself, who in your life sees your essence, not just your achievements? Who reflects back to you the version of yourself that you are still becoming? That, the mirror would say, is a reflection worth considering. The total presence, the silent gift that reveals the soul's devotion in a world drowning in distraction and fractured attention. There exists a sacred act so rare that its presence becomes a revelation. Carl Jung observed that one of the most powerful indicators of genuine love isn't found in grand gestures or eloquent words, but in the quality of presence one offers to another. It's the invisible thread that binds souls in silence, a profound attentiveness that reflects reverence for the being before us. This kind of presence is not simply about physical proximity. It is a complete availability of the psyche, where cognition, emotion, energy, and spirit are all quietly attuned to the other. It is the state in which one becomes utterly open, unguarded, receptive, and engaged. The Zen concept of beginner's mind captures the spirit beautifully. The ability to approach the other without preconceived notions, to encounter them freshly, as if meeting them for the very first time. Carl Jung considered this the highest form of conscious relationship, where one no longer sees the other through the filters of ego, expectation, or projection, but allows the soul of the other to reveal itself. In contrast to typical social exchanges, where attention is scattered and interaction is often a competition of monologues, the person who truly loves you listens with a stillness that transforms the space. They don't just hear your words, they feel your pauses. They attune to the emotions behind your speech, to the meaning woven into your silences. They aren't waiting to respond. They are witnessing you into being. As Carl Jung wrote, the meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. But this transformation demands undivided attention, a surrender of the self into the moment. The signs of this sacred presence are quiet but unmistakable. Sustained eye contact that is neither invasive nor withdrawn. A facial expression that mirrors your emotions, reflecting joy, sorrow, or confusion with gentle empathy. A body that turns fully toward you, not distracted, not distant, but present. A silence that holds space rather than fills it. Questions that arise not from obligation, but from genuine curiosity about your inner life. Anna, a 35-year-old writer, shared, "I realized I was in love when I noticed how completely seen I felt in our conversations. It was as if the world fell away, and we were suspended in a moment of shared awareness. In that gaze, I didn't need to explain myself. I simply was." This kind of attention is rare because it requires an act of courage. The courage to temporarily set aside one's own concerns, narratives, and defenses to make room for another. Carl Jung understood this as a form of inner sacrifice, a momentary letting go of the ego's grip to create what he called a sacred container, a psychic space in which authenticity can unfold. The Buddhist tradition calls this compassionate presence, an awareness that neither judges nor analyzes, but simply allows. And perhaps the most striking aspect of this sign is its consistency. It doesn't only appear during candlelit conversations or emotional climaxes. It arises just as easily in the mundane. In grocery store lines, over morning coffee, or in shared silence in the car. For the one who loves you, each moment together holds weight. Each moment is meaningful. This presence isn't simply a symptom of love. It's the soil in which love takes root and grows deeper. As Carl Jung noted, attention is the rarest and purest form of generosity. And yet, it prompts an essential question for every soul seeker. How does this kind of presence hold up in the face of conflict, misunderstanding, and difference? The answer may lie not in perfection, but in the ability to remain present even when it would be easier to withdraw. That is where love ceases to be ideal and becomes real. The integrative conflict. How love transforms differences. One of the most paradoxical and revealing signs of true love is not found in moments of harmony. And yet, it prompts an essential question for every soul seeker. How does this kind of presence hold up in the face of conflict, misunderstanding, and difference? The answer may lie not in perfection, but in the ability to remain present even when it would be easier to withdraw. That is where love ceases to be ideal and becomes real. The integrative conflict. How love transforms differences. One of the most paradoxical and revealing signs of true love is not found in moments of harmony, but in the crucible of disagreement, not in the avoidance of conflict, but in the subtle way it is approached, held, and ultimately alchemized. Carl Jung observed that when love is authentic and psychologically mature, conflict ceases to be a threat. It becomes a bridge. He described this as the dialectic of love, where opposing truths do not destroy connection, but deepen it through the dance of mutual reflection. In the landscape of most relationships, conflict is feared, managed, or suppressed. But from a Jungian lens, true love does not seek to eliminate tension. It honors it as the birthplace of psychological integration. Just as friction creates the heat necessary for transformation, differences between two individuals generate the psychic energy required for individuation within the container of the relationship. In this way, love becomes not an escape from contradiction, but a sacred vessel that holds it. This dynamic reveals itself in subtle yet profound behaviors during disagreement. A person who truly loves you remains anchored in their own truth while staying open to yours. They do not collapse into compliance nor attack with defensiveness. Their body remains oriented toward you. Their voice softens, not with weakness, but with presence. They take pauses not to strategize, but to reflect. Most poignantly, they allow themselves to be vulnerable in the very moment where ego usually takes over. It is not the content of the argument that matters most, but the quality of contact preserved within it. As Pedro, a couples therapist of 20 years, shared, the most deeply connected couples are not those who fight less, but those who emerge from conflict with a deeper sense of having been seen. Carl Jung identified this as the creative tension of opposites. In such conflicts, both partners hold their individual perspectives like sacred flames, not to extinguish the other, but to illuminate new insight. The goal is not agreement, but understanding. This reflects a universal pattern found in Taoist thought, where yin and yang are not enemies, but complementary forces co-creating balance. Similarly, the Zen teaches that non-duality is the path to wholeness, the capacity to hold seeming contradictions in the same breath. The clearest sign that love is present in conflict is what happens afterward. Does the person turn away, or do they return to emotional connection with grace? Do they weaponize the past, or do they carry forward the understanding earned? True love leaves space for repair without resentment. The wound becomes a doorway, not a wall. This form of integrative conflict reveals something radical. Relationships rooted in love are not marked by the absence of disagreement. They often contain more honest and courageous conversations, not fewer. Because where there is safety, there is truth, and where there is truth, there is growth. The response to vulnerability. The definitive test of genuine love. There is a sacred moment that reveals the truth of love more clearly than any declaration or promise. It arrives not when things are easy, but when you stand bare in your humanity, stripped of defenses, revealing your deepest wounds, fears, and hidden insecurities. Carl Jung regarded this moment as a psychological crucible, a rite of passage in relationships. For it is here, in the exposure of raw vulnerability, that the archetype of true love either reveals itself or collapses. This is not a moment for performance. It is a descent into the soul, a threshold where all masks fall away, and only what is real remains. Carl Jung understood that love is not measured by how someone embraces your strengths, but by how they hold your brokenness. The person who truly loves you will not flinch in the face of your darkness. They do not withdraw, deflect, or diminish. Instead, they move closer with a quiet, reverent presence. This movement is subtle but unmistakable. It is in the softened gaze that holds eye contact without pity. It is in the open posture that does not turn away. It is in the silence that does not rush to fix, but creates space for your inner world to exist exactly as it is. Carl Jung described this as the alchemy of presence, where love becomes the vessel that contains pain without judgment, where the self does not need to fragment in shame, but can remain whole in its exposure. Louisa, a psychologist who works with trauma survivors, calls this rare phenomenon the sacred response to vulnerability. She explains, "It is not what someone says, but what they do not turn away from. It is the unspoken message. I see you. I am not afraid of this. I am staying." This quiet staying becomes an anchor in the storm, a mirror that reflects your worth even in your emotional disarray. Across spiritual traditions, this capacity to remain with suffering has long been honored. Indigenous cultures regarded it as soul-tending. Christian mysticism called it compassion in its original etymology, to suffer with. In Buddhism, it is known as compassionate abiding, the ability to witness pain without resisting or fleeing it. The absence of this response is equally telling. Those who are not grounded in genuine love may react with unease. They might change the subject, minimize your pain, offer unsolicited solutions, or store what you reveal to weaponize it later. Carl Jung recognized this as a projection of their own unprocessed fears. They cannot sit with your vulnerability because they have not made peace with their own. The deeper the shadow is revealed, the more clearly the inner posture of the other is illuminated. As Carl Jung wrote, "In the deepest darkness, the nature of light is most apparent." In this way, vulnerability becomes a kind of psychic litmus test. It is nearly impossible to fake or sustain the right response without an authentic emotional foundation. What emerges in this moment is not performance. It is essence. Roberto, a 45-year-old consultant, shared a story that captures this truth. "For years, I carried a secret terror of failure." As Carl Jung wrote, "In the deepest darkness, the nature of light is most apparent." In this way, vulnerability becomes a kind of psychic litmus test. It is nearly impossible to fake or sustain the right response without an authentic emotional foundation. What emerges in this moment is not performance. It is essence. Roberto, a 45-year-old consultant, shared a story that captures this truth. "For years, I carried a secret terror of failure. When I finally voiced it to my partner, she did not try to cheer me up. She did not offer advice. She just stayed with me, quiet, steady, present. It was then I understood how deeply I was loved." This experience marks more than just a comforting exchange. It ignites a profound transformation within. When someone meets your deepest pain not with resistance, but with simple, unwavering presence, your nervous system begins to find its calm, to settle. Your psyche, cautiously, begins to unfold, and trust is born. Not from empty words or promises, but from the palpable safety felt in their nearness. And so it is that through shared vulnerability, a relationship ascends to a deeper octave of intimacy, a realm where both souls begin to breathe with a newfound ease, where what once lay hidden in shadows is now honored in the light, where love becomes not a lofty ideal to chase, but a lived sanctuary, a haven built on mutual understanding. This sacred response to vulnerability is not merely a sign of love. It is its most profound and resonant expression. The presence in the little things, the final revelation of authentic love. The last, and perhaps most transformative, sign of true love isn't found in grand gestures or eloquent, poetic confessions, but rather in the quiet, almost imperceptible rhythm of the everyday moments. Carl Jung, ever the keen observer of the soul's hidden language, astutely noted that the sacred often reveals itself not in the spectacular, but in the ordinary, in the mundane, illuminated by genuine presence. Authentic love is most clearly revealed in the small, repeated gestures that emerge from an unconscious devotion, a kind of inner vigilance where the other is softly held in one's awareness, even amidst the chaos and routine of life. This kind of love does not announce itself with fanfare, simply lives, breathes, and exists. Jung called this kind of awareness attentive presence at the edges of consciousness, a gentle watchfulness. And it can be observed in the countless subtle ways one soul makes space for another without demand or spectacle. A hand instinctively reaching for yours in comfortable silence. A blanket pulled gently over your shoulders without a spoken word. The memory of your unique preferences kept alive in the delicate details of daily habits. This love does not perform for an audience. It remembers. It notices when your eyes dim with fatigue before your voice even betrays that you are tired. It quietly shifts its energy so that you feel deeply understood without having to utter a single explanation. Carlos, a 52-year-old physician, recalled, "I did not truly understand the depth of my wife's love for me until I realized, years into our marriage, that she had been giving me the last bite of every dessert we shared. She never mentioned it, never sought recognition. It was simply her quiet way of giving, without needing to be seen or acknowledged. This kind of loving presence cannot be feigned, cannot be manufactured, cannot be maintained as a calculated strategy or tactic. It arises only when the well-being of the beloved has become inextricably woven into one's own, when care has become an instinctual reflex, and love has become the very atmosphere of being, the air that one breathes." Spiritual traditions across the globe have long echoed this profound truth. In Zen, it is known as mindfulness in the mundane, the sacredness of presence. In Christian mysticism, it is the sacrament of the present moment, the divine found in the here and now. These traditions affirm that the divine is not only found within the hallowed halls of temples or cathedrals, but in the way we mindfully wash a dish, hand a cup of tea with intention, or greet someone without distraction, offering our full presence. Jung believed that the self is not fully realized in isolation, but in how it meets and holds the other in ordinary moments of presence, in the shared experience of life. He wrote, "The greatest tree grows from a tiny seed. The deepest bond is born in the smallest gesture." Anna Maria, a therapist with 3 decades of experience, remarked, "The surest sign of lasting love is not the grand romantic gesture, but the small and constant presence of attention, the quiet devotion. Over time, these micro acts of love become the sturdy fabric that holds a relationship together, weathering even the fiercest storms. And there is a kind of silent reciprocity inherent in true love. The one who is seen with such unwavering devotion begins, almost unconsciously, to offer the same tender presence in return, mirroring the care they receive. This mutual attunement creates a virtuous cycle, a wordless echo of love that grows stronger and more resonant with each quiet repetition, each shared moment. Across every culture studied, anthropologists have found the same enduring thread. What binds people together long after the initial passion has cooled or compatibility has been rigorously tested is this, the invisible yet profoundly powerful force of loving attention woven into the ordinary fabric of life. The small acts that are never recorded in photographs or meticulously written in journals, but which quietly become the very foundation of something sacred and enduring, a testament to the power of presence. This final sign serves as a potent reminder of something essential. True love does not crave the spotlight. It does not demand applause or recognition. It exists in the pregnant pause before speaking, the remembered detail that shows you've been heard, the unspoken gesture of care that transcends words. It is found in the gaze that lingers just a moment longer, in the hand that instinctively reaches back to offer comfort, in the mundane acts made holy by the simple act of presence. And so, if you find yourself the recipient or the giver of such love, know this with certainty. You have encountered something exceptionally rare, something profoundly real, not the fleeting, ephemeral fire of infatuation, but the quiet, enduring light of a soul recognizing another in the seemingly insignificant little things. If these reflections stirred something within your heart, share your experience in the comments with the phrase, "Seeing beyond words." Let us continue honoring the subtle, sacred signs of love together, acknowledging their profound impact. And remember, the deepest truths are not shouted from the rooftops. They are whispered in the delicate details, in the quiet moments of connection. If this message resonated within you, don't stop here on your journey. The next video will take you even deeper into the realms of healing, personal growth, and profound self-discovery. It might just be the breakthrough your soul has been patiently waiting for, the key to unlocking your true potential. Tap into it now and embrace the journey that awaits. Hit subscribe, turn on notifications, and join a vibrant community committed to truth, transformation, and real inner change. Remember, you're not alone on this path. We walk it together. I'll meet you in the next video, where we continue becoming who we were always meant to be, embracing our authentic selves.